So we'll go ahead. Zoom just added that special feature. So in case there's any doubt, this meeting is being recorded. So I think we've said that about 3 times now. So thank you, Zoom, for that. It's good to see everybody. I think most of us are known to each other, but I would love to just acknowledge we have a few new faces, give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves, and then we will dive into the agenda. Most of our agenda relates to hearing your updates, and so I don't think the meeting today will go long. So if you have an 11 a.m. obligation, no worries there. So good morning, everyone. I'm looking around the wall here. We have 2 new fellows with Envision Athens, so I'd love to welcome you guys to introduce yourselves, starting with Aditi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aditi. As Aaron said, I'm a community development fellow with Envision Athens, and I am going to be a 3rd year next year at UGA studying biology and economics.
Thanks, Aditi. And then Molly.
Yeah, hey y'all. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. I'm not also a 3rd year. I'm going into my senior year at UGA. I'm also a fellow with Envision Athens, and I'm studying econ and international affairs. And I'm so excited to get to hear from all of you and just be a part of this.
Thanks, Molly. And then some relatively new faces. Emily from First Baptist, will you introduce yourself again?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Emily Harbin. I serve as the minister to students and young adults at First Baptist Athens downtown.
Good to see you, Emily. Thanks. And then Chaplain Cole Napper.
Hey, yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Chaplain Cole Napper, Athens native and civil rights activist, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
And Chaplain, you just received an award from your sorority, is that correct?
I did. Justice for Justice, sure did. Aaron and I serve on D.A. Gonzalez's transition team together. So I'm really excited to be doing this work with you as well. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you for all you do. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Same.
And then Lizette, I think this is your first meeting with this particular group. So glad to see you. Would love to welcome you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Lizette. I'm with Family Connections Community and Schools. I'm the neighborhood leader for the J.J. Harris Empowerment Zone. Yeah, like you said, this is my first time on this call. I got a little taste of the work group meetings yesterday. So yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to learn what y'all are doing, and thank you.
Good morning. Anyone else? I think we covered all the new folks. All right. So the agenda next item is just doing a really brief recap of the community behavioral health needs assessment. Thanks to Meg and Grace and Harrison for their work on that. And just as a reminder, some of the key prevailing themes from that assessment. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to double check before I kept rolling. So one key prevailing theme was the increasing impact of telehealth and how this experience with COVID has likely forever, at least for a very long time, changed the way that we offer behavioral health supports. Other key themes relate to Naloxone and MAT provision. And then the next key theme was just, I think, to no surprise of anyone in or outside this group, that the year of 2020 into 21 has taken its toll. And in the trauma-informed care capacity building that we've been doing this past year, some of that has included training around secondary trauma. And so it was no surprise, unfortunately, that is very real for a lot of the people on this call and many people who are providing human services. And if you're not familiar with secondary trauma, and if you're new to the conversation, that concept is essentially the trauma that people experience over the cumulative effect of experiencing other people's trauma and supporting them through their trauma. So we don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time on this because we've reviewed it in depth on other conversations. But I did want to just open the floor to this group and stop for just a moment on the telehealth, and then briefly discuss naloxone and MAT, and then morale before we move on. So on the topic of telehealth, does anything stand out to you about telehealth? Is that something that, I guess my key questions for you are, is that something that you plan to continue offering in the foreseeable future? And are there specific supports you need from the community in order to continue to offer telehealth services?
Erin, I'll go ahead and share. My name is Brandy. I'm with Acceptance Recovery. And so we went back to doing a lot of in-person groups, but we would like to have remote in options for those that are unable to. And so it's been really challenging to be able to transition into being able to offer both. Let's say, for instance, our alumni care group, it's just more convenient if people do not live in Athens or, work so far away that they're able to log in remotely, and the people that are able to meet in person would be able to meet in person. Our challenges with that has been technology. And we are so thankful to Advantage. We've been able to go back to in-person groups thanks to them allowing us to use their space in the evening time. That space definitely has a time frame on it. And I guess we started in April. So we had at most 2 years to be able to deliver our in-person groups. The new property that we moved our men's center location to, the current zoning doesn't allow for us to deliver the type of programs that we deliver there. So we are seeking for alternative place for the physical in person, but if we are unable to find that space, once we're no longer able to use that space, then we will have to move back completely to telehealth. I mean, we pivoted very quickly into telehealth, and it was really great. And then it was really challenging going back into in-person when people have been doing groups for over a year on their phone. And the etiquette is very different. So I definitely see us still doing telehealth. A lot of our meetings are still remote in, and it's really helps with our team working at various locations throughout Athens, or if somebody's on travel, we're still able to hop on a meeting if need be. So it's been great being able to have flexibility in that aspect, but I see the challenges for us is just having the proper technology to be able to do so.
And Brandy, what are some technology needs that you have? I'm guessing, and I already see from Tiffany, that the move and then sustaining telehealth require kind of the same types of supports across agencies. So what are some more specifics regarding what you need?
So, okay, so some of our staff are still don't feel safe to go back to in-person. So say if we're in a room like this, and I don't know the proper technology that it's called, but like a camera and microphone type system to where maybe all the participants can be in a room. And then whoever's logging in can see everybody. What we've used in the past is Google Chromebooks. That's because that's what we could afford very quickly whenever we would when people didn't have electronic phones that come into our program. We just have a Chromebook, and it's really hard to see people and hear people when the screen is like this big. So whatever device that would be, to where a facilitator could be engaging a group and maybe not be there, or vice versa. One or two people could remote in and still be able to, you know, be a part of the group, rather than this, you know, really small Chromebook that we have sitting on, you know, sitting up high so it can just get as far reach in the room. And, you know, somebody that's tech savvy would know a lot more about that. But I would think like, you know, doctors' offices and a lot of classrooms have that type of technology that I'm talking, but I don't know what it's called. And I don't know, Tiffany, if that's the same for you all over there or not.
Yeah.
Technology, Zoom Pro accounts, we have to be HIPAA compliant too. So we have to be really careful about what platforms we use. Even our platforms to be compliant, that's the most expensive thing for us, is the platforms. Then you've got like all of our technology is very dated. So, you know, laptops or we've tried to convert most of our groups back to in person. We still have a few that are virtual. Some of our DUI drug court groups, because those people don't have licenses, which is another barrier. Even though we're on the bus route, sometimes there's issues with that. So we've got a few that are still virtual. We feel like the groups do better in person, as far as from a treatment modality, but we're just kind of right now we're partial. So we have some in person and some virtual. But really it's just the technology stuff. It's just very expensive. And when you're trying to still pay your staff and you're dealing with dated equipment and trying to provide HIPAA compliant software is challenging.
Yeah, and Melinda, I want to hear from you too. I guess my question is for you all, and the reason I'm asking us to increase in specificity around this is because I do think there might be some funding resources available to support some of these costs. I think my key question is if, and I think it's hopefully a matter of when, COVID is more a thing in our rear view lens, and vaccination rates and efficacy are such that anyone who, you know, can drive is able to, and it's safe to meet in person. Will you continue telehealth? Because for some patients, clients, it's actually preferable. So once COVID is further behind us, will telehealth still be a best practice for you in some cases? So Melinda, let's start with you on that.
Yes, Erin, we do plan on continuing telehealth as well as doing the face-to-face as well. We see that that we are increasing our capacity at least in a double at this time. And part of that is because we're not only servicing the community, but also our providers, the staff that are servicing the clients. And so what we're utilizing telehealth is for the staff that is providing services to the community. So when their staff is having staff meetings, they've asked us to provide counseling services to their staff because of to be able to provide any type of counseling that we can for any of our service providers. And so telehealth can be very impactful in those settings when you're having staff meetings to provide any type of counseling, to group counseling in situations such as that, so that your staff doesn't have to all leave the office to come and do some group counseling. You can do that through telehealth, whether that's biweekly or monthly. It's very useful for situations like that.
Mm-hmm. And Judge Sweat asked a really great question. How do participation rates compare between virtual or telehealth and in person? And that's to anyone with experience in this.
My feedback on that would be really is that you have to have some type of accountability, and usually that's going to be setting up through your system where it's a financial accountability is usually one of the biggest things that keep someone from making sure that they're attending. We have a process in Theranos that we ask people to set up if they are making payments, to do that through their credit card payment. So linking that immediately, or if they're doing it through a hardship, that, you know, it's an immediate where they are going to deduct that if they are missing it, so that there is a consequence for if they're not attending. So if whether it's in person or telehealth, making sure that there's accountability.
Mhm.
We will probably continue telehealth, even though our value is in person, for people that need it, because we also serve people in the rural counties outside of Athens. And then also, we find that community meetings like the Domestic Violence Task Force or some other things that we participate in, MDT meetings, it's so much easier to do virtual when you're trying to coordinate schedules. Taking out the travel time allows you more time for your meeting. So we will definitely probably continue more virtual meetings. We would like more groups to be in person, but we know that we're going to do a lot of individual therapy through telehealth at this time. This is what people are most comfortable with. And we've also wanted to make sure that our staff are slowly introduced to more people coming into the building as they've all become vaccinated. But we still have 2 people that have some autoimmune stuff. So we're trying to make sure that we are careful. We've been fortunate not to have a single case of COVID in our office during this time. So we feel like there's some benefit, but we also look at level of care. So people with addictions, there is more risk to doing telehealth. And there's some assessment pieces that you miss in telehealth. So, you know, if somebody is high risk, currently suicidal, there's just so much more to pay attention to and be careful of when treating them via telehealth. So we will continue it. Right now, we're trying to figure out the percentages. I've sent out several surveys to our staff. You know, how do you see the percentage? Would it be 25-75? Would it be 50-50? Would it be 75-25? And we're trying to figure those numbers out right now. Like what percentage would be in the future telehealth versus in person.
Well, I appreciate it. And I don't want to spend too much of our limited time on this topic. And the whole point of the behavioral health needs assessment is to help identify gaps. And so I think it's really important to stay with those assessment results enough to learn what ongoing gaps will be and then try to apply resources to address those gaps. So what I think would be very helpful in that regard is if anyone on today's call is very aware that ongoing telehealth is both beneficial for you and cost prohibitive. If you will spend some time in creating, a wish list of what items you need in order to continue telehealth. And I'm hoping there will be some collaborative opportunities for us to help meet some of those needs in the next few months. So I know that some of you have some specific ideas. If you could send kind of a list and like a pro forma budget of what that would cost, I think that will help us move toward thinking through how to address and close the gap. Okay, any questions about that, guys, before we move on? Relatedly, this group has done an excellent job, and specifically thanks to Allie McCorkle and the team at Divas Who Win. Mary, you're repping them today. Good to see you, Mary. And Access Point for all the work in Naloxone. This time a year ago, we were still not sure how to move forward on that. And I think we're at the point now wherein agencies and organizations and people who want naloxone can get it. And so that's a really great place to be. And it seems like we've identified that organizations that need naloxone to supply to their stakeholders and participants do have access to that through, state level organizations like Georgia Overdose Prevention Council. So Allie, is there anything that you would add, or especially if I've gotten anything wrong, please correct me before we move on from naloxone.
Hey, no, you did good, Erin. I think you covered everything. Yeah, I feel good about how easy it is to access now. I love the online training.
Yeah.
I think that that's really good for everybody. So yeah, I'm pleased. I think we've done a lot of work over the last couple months, and I think it's paid off.
Awesome. I know I probably say this every month, but I am so proud to be working with you all, and it is a great honor to think that because of these conversations, people are alive today that would not otherwise be alive. So that's major, and I appreciate you. So let's celebrate. We have a couple of opportunities that I'm very excited about. A couple of you, we were in offline conversation about the new film 4 Good Days, which remarkably was not screening in Athens. And so because we have some funding through Resilient Georgia and the Patulik Foundation, I reached out to Pamela Cohn, the director at Cine. And so we have partnered to offer a special screening for this group and your organizations on Monday, June 21st. So really, really excited to spend the evening with you guys. John, thank you so much. John just dropped the link to an Eventbrite. The max capacity for this screening is 60. So what that means is I would love nothing more than everyone on this team to attend and bring a couple of folks from your organization along. This is not a link to share outside this group at all. Tickets are free. So the Resilient Georgia Partnership is funding the screening. So this will be no cost to you. But because there is limited capacity, please use that link and register yourself today, and maybe work with your organization to bring along 2 or 3 other folks. The movie, thanks to Pamela, Cine is actually doing a Science on the Screen project this month. So this could not have worked out more beautifully or perfectly. If for some reason you're not able to attend on Monday, June 21st, the movie will be available the weekend before that. So the Friday before up through the day before that Sunday, the movie will be screening just to the public, at whatever it normally costs at Cine. So if for some reason you're not able to attend on Monday, but would still like to see the film, it is here because this group exists. And I think this is a great testament to the power of collaboration. I might get a little emotional here. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I did not have the level of understanding. And honestly, I didn't have the level of empathy and care that I have today because I didn't know the things that I know, because I have learned to care about and understand more about you and our recovery community. So I just want to thank you for that. And I really look forward to spending some time with you on the 21st. We also have snacks from M's Kitchen because I don't celebrate anything, anytime without food. Anyone who knows me well knows that food is always involved when there's celebration. So we have some appetizer and dessert trays coming from M's Kitchen that will be available at 5:30. And then we also have a public service announcement or kind of brief video that was created in partnership with Resilient Georgia. And some of you were part of that film that will also be shown prior to the screening of 4 Good Days. And the film we expect to start around 7 o'clock that evening. So any questions about that? Who's coming? Raise your hand. A lot of you. Okay, that's good. So use that link, register, and I look forward to seeing you there. One more thing before we move on, and this is this is connected to the BHCNA assessment results and just the toll that this year has taken on everyone. So we have the film screening, and we also have another opportunity in August, thanks to Emily and First Baptist Church. So I'm going to invite her to share a little bit more about that.
Yes, so I am pretty new to all of this. This is only my second meeting, but was just so impressed with the work that y'all are doing and really appreciative. And so our church is going to host the August meeting on, August 11th and provide like a brunch for everyone. It'll be in person, and we have a large gathering area in our rotunda. It seats between 60 and 70 comfortably. So if we have a smaller group too, there's plenty of space to spread out for those that come. But that'll be, no cost to y'all, just to celebrate y'all.
And that, Emily, thanks so much for that. And guys, that will actually be our first in-person meeting in more than a year. So again, to confirm, Emily, correct me if I'm missing, that is August 10th, Wednesday at 10 a.m. So that will be both our first in-person meeting for Healthy Athens in quite a while, as well as an appreciation breakfast hosted by First Baptist Church. Okay. Any questions or thoughts about that? All right. Okay, so let's move on. Next in the agenda, one of our key success measures relates to barriers to housing. And we know that there are barriers for almost everyone living in Clark County to housing, because housing is very expensive, and we live in the smallest county in Georgia, which drives up the cost, as do other factors. And so this is a key area of advocacy and opportunity. Evan, thank you so much for joining us today. Evan and I have been in some ways working on this problem opportunity together for about 11 years. And I think you've been working on it a little bit longer, but I've been here for 11 years. And Evan, I think we've made and gained some ground here recently. And so I would love if you wouldn't mind to kind of kick off this part of the agenda by sharing an update about some of the work you've been doing and some of the progress that's been made.
Sure. Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate it. And I think before we get into, kind of some of the numbers, we have made a huge impact. And this is, I've been working with the homeless population. It's sort of my passion since basically volunteering at the Athens Area Homeless Shelter back in 1998, when it was an emergency shelter on Barber Street. The successes that we've had and the people that we've been able to house to date, honestly, would not have been possible. One, we do have the money, but without the partnerships that we've had. And I do want to shout out specifically to programs like Acceptance Recovery Center, Palm House Recovery Center, Fresh Winds Recovery Center, as well as the partnerships that we've been able to work with Bigger Vision. We're working with Athens Alliance, as well as the hotel. The Best Western Hotel has been a tremendous partner in these activities that we've been able to do, and as well as the Athens Apartment Association and April Allred. So we did have some funds from the state and from the federal government in order to kind of promote our ability to house individuals. We expanded the street outreach program, Michael Bean's program, so where we could go out to the camps and downtown and engage these individuals a little bit more effectively, much more effectively than we have been able to do in years past. To date, we have housed 70 households since August that were previously unsheltered. And to some of you, maybe that doesn't seem a lot. That's a huge amount to me. We've never been able to do anything like that in the past. And a lot of that has to do with the money and the partnerships that we've been able to make with the other community providers. We've got a program called Rapid Rehousing that has been a large influence in this. And it allows us to pay for the rent for at least up to 6 months, depending on the nature of the individual and what their needs are. We can extend that assistance based on their income and where they are and where they sit. We can also pay for unit repairs. And we're trying to work out a program where we're paying for, or we can do incentives to landlords to rent. The holdup with this is that the landlord needs to will rent specifically with the individual. So the individual is on the lease. And that's been a bit of a barrier given the nature of the individuals that we're trying to work with. There's criminal histories, there's credit histories, there's debt owed in previous rental situations that we have to work towards. So it's a process, but that being said, 70 households through a variety of housing programs that we've been able to work with, be that recovery housing, be that transitional housing with our mental health residential programs, our rapid rehousing, and our shelter plus care. And I think we're just starting to scratch the surface a little bit. Michael and his team have done a tremendous job at getting out into the camps and engaging these individuals. We've been able to expand a sort of a transitional temporary type service with our hotel program so that we can get these guys, wrap them up in a, get them in a stable situation at the hotel for 30 to 60 to 90. In some cases, we've got a couple of individuals that are staying a little bit longer because they've got a little bit higher needs. But we stabilize them and then we work to get them into these other programs. That's rapid rehousing. We've got several that we've put through acceptance recovery. We've got several we've put through Palm House and Fresh Winds Recovery and a couple of other places, and they're doing amazingly well. And it really kind of makes me feel good. It touches my heart to see some of these guys who I've known. A couple of these guys are former clients of mine back when I worked at the homeless shelter. They've been with us for quite a while, and we got this one couple into their own apartment, first time in over a decade in Walton County, and these guys have been up and down. It's been a roller coaster. There's some severe mental issues. There's some severe drug issues. And it took us a while to get these guys to a place where they were willing to accept and willing to get into a place. And we were able to do that. I think that's really a testament to the team. And it's a testament to how we've been able to communicate and work with the other folks out there, people living in recovery, divas who win, all of these guys that are reaching out, and how effective we've been able to be at communicating, coordinating, and wrapping these guys up and keeping them wrapped up. One of my team members, just basically said something that is sort of our philosophy when we're trying to engage these guys is our success determines on how often they come back to us. If they keep coming back to us, then we're going to consider ourselves successful, because there's so many barriers to these individuals finding housing. If they're willing to come back to us, keep coming back to us, eventually we'll figure something out with them. And we're hoping to continue to grow. We've got some other things in the pot as far as what we're able to do. One of the bigger barriers, just to put it out there, you guys might know this already, but it's affordable housing, and it's finding landlords willing to rent to this population. Our biggest tool to stably house these individuals is the rapid rehousing program. Like I said before, the individuals have to be on the lease, and there is some reticence on behalf of the landlords to rent to these individuals, regardless of what we're able to say that we can provide. And it's finding affordable housing. So that's what we're trying to work towards, is so from a marketing perspective, as well as an education perspective, to develop sort of an incentive type program to make landlords kind of get a little bit more comfortable. My whole spiel to a lot of these guys is that we can guarantee the rent, the repairs, but we cannot guarantee that these guys are not going to act up, so to speak, but we will be able to guarantee that we will respond to that. And be there for them and provide that ongoing support service. And we've been able to make a lot of headway recently in developing a lot of partnerships with some new developers and some other apartment owners that we haven't been able to rent to or rent from in the past. So we're growing. It's slower than I would like because, well, frankly, I want to house everybody right now. And I know that there's a lot of vacancies out there in the apartments right now, and we've got the money to pay the rent. So that's a little, that's part of the frustration. I want to get these guys in, and we can pay the rent. Come on, rent to us. But it's a process of getting these guys through. And Michael will be here to attest. It's never as easy as you want it to be. And there's all these little things. I'll give one example. We had an individual And we had him already on a voucher. He was approved. They had a vacancy. We were going to get him in. It was tremendous. And then at the last minute, they came back and said, nope, we can't get him in because he had an assault charge on his criminal record back in 1994. And this is a guy at this point right now is half blind. You know, he's in his mid 60s, but, you know, because of that assault charge, 27 years ago, he was denied. And these are some of the battles that we're having to face in trying to find housing, you know, for the folks that need it. And that's what we get to continue to work towards every day. So I think in general, that's the nuts and bolts of what we've got going on. We're looking to expand, and we've got some other things down the road that potentially could help us gain some housing choices and housing options for some folks. So,
Evan, this is a bit of a sidebar question, but I think it's very relevant. As long as criminal background checks are prohibitive, I think this service is pretty relevant. Do you ever work with Georgia Legal Services Program or similar organization to secure expungement so that that boundary or that barrier can be overcome?
yes, we can do that. One of the things that we run up against, though, is that now we know. Previously, you know, we'll ask the individual, is there anything going to, you know, come up on your record? And no, nothing. Everything's fine. And, you know, because they may not think that something like this is going to affect their residents. So we get to kind of turn around, but that delays the process. And there is a process for expungement that takes some time too. So, you know, that's one of the battles or one of the things that we're, you know, trying to overcome. And it's also very interesting because different landlords have different criteria and different reasons why they might, bar some or, you know, not approve an application. You know, some people are okay with drug charges, other people aren't. Some people look at misdemeanors as a serious offense. Other people will look at felonies, but, you know, an assault felony may be an issue, but it may not be over there. So it's sort of like a hit and miss almost. And what we do kind of face is that our front-facing folks, we work with the folks in the office, and then they will say, well, there's nothing that we can do. It's a corporate decision. And, you know, that, you know, that's the kind of the wall that we hit at that point. So, and a lot of these apartment complexes are owned out of state. And so it's sometimes difficult to get in touch with the corporate offices if they will even speak to you. So, but yeah, the expungement is an option, and it's something that we do look at, but it, you know, it's a process. So.
And then, you know, not everyone on today's call is necessarily completely familiar with the various housing programs and the durability of the financial support. So, you know, one part of the equation is helping someone secure housing, maintaining that housing into the future as another key component. So then we get into employment and second chance employment and barriers to high wage jobs. Evan, can you just quickly describe how long certain housing programs provide support and what steps are taken to help people transition and actually maintain housing over time?
So we've got what we call a permanent supportive housing program. It operates about 100 units scattered throughout the 5 counties. The majority of those units are within the Athens-Clarke County area, and that is permanent supportive housing, meaning that as long as the individuals are doing what they need to do and they're not violating the terms of the lease agreement with the landowner, then they can remain in that program as long as the funding continues. And we've had some individuals in those programs for over 10 years. These are high need individuals that are, you know, not able to live really independently on their own. There's a lot of medical issues. There's a lot of severe and persistent mental illness or co-occurring disorders. So we've got a team of case managers that work with them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis in the homes and do a variety of different things, ranging from stages of change recovery to employment assistance, financial planning, daily living skills, things like that, to, you know, make sure that they are living in the most stable environment. That's the permanent supportive housing. We have what we call the rapid rehousing. We're looking at that's such a technical name. We've got to come up with a different name for it, but that's in the works. That is a program that also targets the same population, but we found it to be more effective with individuals that are kind of higher functioning and able to either are employable or in a place where they can have a level of income. And that is a program that we can provide. Our model is that we will provide 6 months of assistance with rent and utilities, and then we will titrate that down beginning the 7th month from a 75, 50%, 25%. And then in the 10th month, we will, they will pay their full, the full amount of rent. That varies based on the needs and what the situation is with the individual. If they're having some barriers or whatever that we've assessed, we can continue that assistance because we're not wanting to set someone up for a potential eviction down the road or anything like that. So we can continue that assistance based on the need. There's also a team of case managers associated with that program, and we meet with those guys in the homes on a weekly or biweekly basis, again, depending on the level of need and what the individuals might be presenting as far as things that they need to overcome. Those are our 2 permanent housing programs. We have a mental health residential program that is roommate based. It's located in basically a single site within an apartment complex. And we've got 15 2-bedroom units, so we can house up to 30 individuals at a time. That's an 18 to 24-month program. We have an on-site team of case managers that work with those guys at minimum 3 hours a week, either individual counseling or group. And we work to transition them through into some of our housing voucher programs, or potentially rapid rehousing or shelter plus care, something that's a little bit more independent style living. We have a variety of 24/7 on-site staff intensive residential programs for individuals who are seeking treatment. And so that's something similar to the other recovery house programs like Acceptance Recovery and Palm House in that type of a model. Those are more short term, whereas these recovery houses have a longer term and they're a little bit more robust in that area. So we will house individuals in that and then sometimes transition them into the other recovery housing programs. But I think Brandy's here, so she can talk a little bit about acceptance recovery if that's appropriate. And we've got, let's see, the hotel program. Again, I mentioned that before, and that's sort of the filling the gap with the transition or continuum of housing. So we get guys there to stabilize them and then move them into these other programs. And then we're also working with the Georgia Housing Voucher Program and the Housing Choice Voucher Program, whereas we seek to get these guys eligible for a voucher, and then the state will pay a percentage of their rent based on their income on a sliding scale, and then working with local apartment complexes who accept that voucher. And then we provide support services to those individuals through our community-based teams, such as assertive community treatment or community support team or our case management program as needed based on the level of severity or the level of need that the individual is presenting. And then we've got a couple of other smaller housing programs, like we work with the courts through their treatment accountability court to house individuals going through there for a period of time. We also work with the Department of Corrections for individuals trying to re-enter the community from the prison system. We have what we call a forensics housing program. So we're working with individuals who have been found not guilty by reason of insanity and have been housed at the hospital for a period of time and are trying to re-enter the community. So we house those guys in an apartment setting for a period of 18 to 24 months there as well. So.
Evan, thanks a lot. And before we go to Brandy, I'd love to hear from you as well regarding specifically residential treatment programming and how that's going for you and any challenges and support needs you have. Before we go there, I think a key part of this conversation is supporting tenants to know their rights and responsibilities. And that is something that John is helping spearhead in partnership with neighborhood leaders and working with the Georgia Legal Services Program and UGA Public Interest Program. I know today we have Lizette and Christine. Are either of you on the housing subgroup? No. Yeah, I think the next step for this is to connect with the housing subgroup and review the content that we have so far with the goal of being able to provide back to this group and other Athenians a pretty clear understanding of a tenant's rights and responsibilities. And I think that that information can also help kind of serve as a conversation starter with landlords as well. So any questions or thoughts about that before we move on to Brandy? So an example of the tenant's rights and responsibilities that we've learned is, for instance, and most of you probably know this, but this is kind of a critical error that can create a lot of problems. If someone has an absentee landlord who is failing to repair or provide a safe property, it's not uncommon for the tenant to just stop paying rent or to pay less rent. That does not prevent the landlord legally from evicting a person. So the landlord has full legal rights to evict a tenant who is not paying, no matter how derelict they are in their obligations to the tenant. So that's just the fact of the matter there. That's an example of the kind of thing that we want to be sure people know. Brandy, would love to hear from you about the residential aspect of your program and your thoughts on housing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you, Evan. That was a really great, clear snapshot of all the amazing work that Advantage is doing in partnerships within the community, and how imperative it is that we all like work together. So Acceptance Recovery Center, we were created to lead those displaced by addiction through care, support, and education into long-term recovery. Our purpose is pretty bold, but pretty simple. It's to break the cycle of generational trauma and addiction. So we have two levels of our program. We have our foundation program that's a minimum of 12 months. And then we have our alumni care transition program that offers an additional 12 months of support if needed. So we are created to serve a very particular population, and that's the moderate to high risk and or need court referred houseless population. So in a nutshell, what that means is for people that need not necessarily a second, third, or fourth chance, they deserve another chance. An overlooked and underserved population, quite frankly, a population that a lot of society is scared of, or just not willing to work with. And so our foundation program was built really strong with a very particular population, a gap in services that I saw through working in the accountability courts and recovery housing for about 5 years before I opened the center. And what we did not expect was the barriers to transitional housing once they completed our program. And that's why in the end of 2019, we officially developed or started an alumni care transition program, because there were so many barriers into re-entering into the community after they created our program, or after they completed our program. So the additional 12 months of support is we still help them with goal setting and savings. They get a reduction in fees. We're a fee-for-service program. We don't accept insurance. So we help them save very specifically to help them get into housing, work on their credit, etc. And so there is a huge need for housing for individuals that we serve. They're primary court referred, so they have some, entanglement with the criminal justice system, and that becomes a huge barrier on top of not making enough money to provide for their families, and the not having access to affordable housing options. And so recently we partnered with Alliance, and Evans reached out to want to help with that. And we've reached out to Live Forward and PLR and all of our community, for anybody that might have a housing list. And we've taken that list. We got several lists that were the same. And so we've taken that and we've started going out and vetting, and we've had some team members out literally like beating the streets, going and knocking on doors and saying, hey, here's my situation. This is my lived experience. These are the people that we're working with. Would you be willing to, work with them? And the outcome was pretty astounding. The being able to share stories of people's lived experience, a lot of even like the corporate owned, because my direction for them was to go to property managers and homeowners individually and steer away from corporate. But seemingly in front of our faces anyways, it seemed like they were really open to giving some people a shot. So we're continuing it. They've labeled it second, I forget the name, Larney's second chance housing list or something like that. So what I hope is that we can have one of our team members maybe sit on the subgroup for the housing, and so that we can receive additional support and share resources. We don't want to work on an effort that somebody's already working on, and rather than we would prefer to partner with and kind of share the opportunity to update that list and gain more resources. And we have a really cool team that, it's just really, they're really good at sharing their story, and that's really impactful, and share the vision and the good work of those that we serve, that they are doing in their lives as well. So that's kind of, there's a little bit about Acceptance Recovery Center and kind of the stumbling blocks that we found. Even after somebody's able to work on their credit and they have stable employment for 2-3 years, they have these evictions, they have these violent charges that, when they run through, they just don't pass the background checks. We had one lady recently, Larney, correct, I think she submitted 22 applications for housing. One of our women alumni.
Almost like 2 or 3 a day. Yeah.
Yeah. And she just continuously got denied, or there was something or other. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that.
So, Brandy, thank you so much. And the storytelling, you guys do it beautifully. And I'm so glad to hear that that's creating some forward movement and momentum. So in marketing guru Donald Miller talks about how if you want folks to do something, make it easy for them. So in other words, make it easy for people to do the thing you want them to do. And it's remarkable that we understand and apply that concept in marketing and communications. We don't apply it very well as a community in working with people in recovery, working with people returning from incarceration, because literally our policies and procedures often make it almost impossible for people to do the thing the community is asking them to do, which is to stabilize, become employed. Related to the second chance housing list, there's also a parallel effort and conversation in partnership with probation and their new counselor, who is amazing, Chandria. We are meeting in a small work group tomorrow to talk about second chance employment. We all know that those two things go together, right? There's securing housing, and then there's maintaining it and moving forward by being able to secure a high wage job. So that is also happening. Just a couple of other updates from the community. The mayor and commission are considering a few different opportunities that relate to housing. One is actually considering what might it look like for Athens, Clarke County to have some form of structured encampment to support unsheltered people. Another is Project Reset, which is an eviction diversion program. And that is something that's being reviewed and considered right now. And then another is the possibility or prospect of actually securing a property for permanent supportive housing and making increased number of units available for the purpose of permanent supportive housing. So will those things move forward? When will they move forward? I have no idea. But those are things that are in active conversation, and they are being written into resolutions for consideration now. So they are more than, a figment. They are on paper and being considered. So hopefully we'll have some updates on that. Evan, I don't know if you mentioned the conversation with Athens Apartment Association. If not, will you just briefly describe that conversation and the type of thing that is moving forward because of the conversations we're having in the community?
Yeah, so basically, I think what we're trying to do with the Athens Apartment Association and with April Allred's help is to get the message out to apartment complexes that are ideal and affordable, ultimately affordable for the populations that we're serving. There's I think we all know there's some apartment complexes that are just out of the range. And so we don't necessarily want to look at those, but some of the others, and basically having an education style campaign and somewhat similar to what Brandy has alluded to as far as describing what the program is and ultimately making it easier for them to explain what it is that we can do and how we will address their concerns. I think with landlords, they're basically concerned about two things: timely rent and tenant behavior. And we can promise at least one of those two things. They will get timely rent, and we can promise that we will be responsive to any behavior concerns or anything. So that's what we're going to be doing. And April Allred is kind of basically giving us a voice to an extent with some of those apartment complexes that would be ideal with what we're trying to do and how we're trying to integrate these individuals back into the community. So it's not necessarily, because I do agree, and I think there is some value in designating a place for permanent supportive housing, but we also want to try to integrate these guys back into the larger community and scatter them throughout the community into multiple complexes so that they're part of the community, not so much that's the apartment complex where the homeless people stay. And so what we're trying to do is do a mix and match of both of those in this kind of way. So does that answer your question, Aaron?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think this discussion this is no surprise to anyone on this call, has quickly demonstrated how multifaceted and layered this conversation is and why we've been working on it for so long and continue to have work before us. But there is interesting and timely momentum right now. And I'm really grateful for this collaboration. Are there any other updates from you all that you want to share with the group? We have about a minute or two before we close out, and I'm dropping that link once again. If you're interested in joining us on June 21st for the 4 Good Days screening, please register in the next day so you can ensure you get your spot and your teammate spots.
Yes. I'm sorry, John. Is it okay for me to give an update about my program?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
yeah, we'll close out in about a minute, but go for it. We're happy to hear from you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Cassandra Hunter, and I'm the System of Care Coordinator for Viewpoint Health. And what we do, we provide what is called high fidelity wraparound services for individuals between the ages of 5 to 21 years of age who has a mental health diagnosis. And so what we do, we help them to achieve their goals, respond to crisis, and identify individuals who can support them in a time of need. We are currently accepting referrals. We accept all Medicaid insurance. We accept private insurance. And we also provide service to those who are uninsured as well as those who are undocumented. And so what I did, I'm going to send an email to you, John, in that way, so you can just send it out to everybody on your listserv, because I have marketing materials detailing the eligibility for those services. And then we also have a crisis autism stabilization unit located in Conyers, Georgia. And so it serves adolescents with autism spectrum disorder between the ages of 10 to 14 years of age. And we are currently only accepting individuals who are uninsured at this time. We do accept referrals throughout the state of Georgia as well. So I'm going to send information regarding that as well too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So everyone, it's 11. I think we're right at an hour. Thanks so much for all the good work that you're doing. And John is dropping a link to another opportunity. So please check that out. We can also include that in the notes. So I look forward to seeing hopefully most or all of you on the 21st of June. We plan to take July off to honor and respect your need for vacating and recreation, and plan to meet again in person on August 11th at 10 a.m. at First Baptist Church for an appreciation breakfast. If anything with COVID changes between now and then dramatically, of course, we will consider that and send you updates if anything changes. But until then, I hope to see you at Cine in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.